So this week in the segment called Ethics in Journalism, we are going to be speaking or focusing on justice in reporting. And basically, we are going to be speaking a little bit about advocacy through truthful storytelling. And to carry on in the series, in this world which is rife with inequality, corruption, there's a massive societal imbalance. The journalist's pen holds immense power, and we use the word pen loosely because we know most of us are typing on a keyboard nowadays, but you get the idea. Our reporting has immense power. Justice in reporting is not merely about exposing wrongs. It's about standing in that gap, especially for Christian journalists and for Christian content creators, standing in the gap for those who cannot stand or speak for themselves. And in Micah 6 verse 8, it encapsulates this calling very, very well. And Micah 6 verse 8 says this: "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good." And what does the Lord require of you? He requires of you to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Now, I work closely with Ger de Potgieter at Devoted Magazine, and at Devoted Magazine, we believe in journalism as a tool for advocacy, and you can check out Devoted Magazine. Their latest issue, number 48, is about to hit the digital space. You can catch them on Facebook, and you can also check out their website, devotedmag.co.za. But at Devoted Magazine, we believe journalism is a tool for advocacy, for truth-telling, and ultimately for transformation. Not just when we talk about transformation loosely in the country, but transformation in individual people's lives. Justice-driven reporting challenges power structures. It highlights systemic inequalities, and it uplifts the oppressed, reflecting the heart of God's desire for a just world. Even though we know the world is anything but just, God still has a heart and desires a just world. That's why he sent his son to die for the world, as in people. So let's look at justice as a journalistic mandate. Justice is not a passive concept. It is something that is active, and it should be very intentional. Journalists committed to justice understand that their words have the power to influence public opinion. They can expose hidden truths and also spark meaningful change. A very powerful example of this for me is the work of an investigative journalist. He's well known in Africa. If you go to his website, you will be able to see more about him, and his name is Anas Arameya. I hope I said that right. These Middle African, North African names are a mouthful sometimes, but Anas Arameya, he is an undercover reporter, so we never really get to see his face. Even on his website, he has himself concealed because he does some very dangerous stuff. And he reports specifically to expose the deep-rooted corruption across Africa, especially the sort of middle to North African regions where you have all of the syndicates running and the corrupt governments, dictatorships, terrorist organizations. And Anas demonstrates this courage required to champion justice, even putting his own life at stake. And this is in a world that often rewards people for being complicit and just standing on the sidelines and maybe taking a video on your phone and really doing nothing. And for Christian journalists, justice also involves ensuring the marginalized are given a voice. Reporting should never exploit the suffering of others, like I've said in previous ethical programs, but it should rather amplify the cries of the unheard, compelling those to action and accountability who are actually listening or reading the reporting. It should give us a call to action in all the right ways. So, what is the danger of neglecting justice? When journalism becomes complacent or profit-driven, like we see in the mainstream media nowadays, it risks perpetuating the very injustices it seeks to expose. Sensationalism, clickbait, I always like to talk about, the one-sided narratives can undermine the credibility of the press, and I believe it has to a large degree across the planet at the moment. distracting from pressing issues and eroding the public trust. We know that people don't trust mainstream media anymore. We are going to more independent sources to get our news. The apartheid-era media in South Africa provides a sobering reminder of this. Some outlets colluded with oppressive regimes, silencing the dissent and spreading propaganda. Today, journalists must be vigilant to avoid similar complacency by refusing to remain silent in the face of injustice. Let's not be scared. Proverbs 21:15 reminds us that when justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers. I mean, that is exactly what we are wanting. We want those people who are doing evil to feel terror by the fact that we are reporting the truth. Our role is clear. Use journalism to bring light where there is darkness, not to obscure truth for convenience or for gain, should I say even selfish gain. So what are some practical steps for justice-focused reporting? We can look at 5 things quickly. Number 1, seek the whole story. Dive beyond surface-level narratives to uncover the root causes and broader contexts. For example, instead of reporting only on crime, explore the underlying socioeconomic factors that are contributing towards that crime in the first place. Go deeper. Include diverse voices. Justice is incomplete without representation. Ensure stories reflect the experience of all the affected parties, particularly those who are historically ignored, and there are a lot. Number 3, verify with precision. We know, especially nowadays, misinformation, it can harm justice. And I said this in previous episodes, meticulously fact-check claims to avoid misleading your audience. Go multi-levels deep in your fact-checking to make sure everything is 100% factually correct and truthful. Number 4, big one for me, be compassionate. Approach sensitive stories with the humility and care. Remember, behind every issue are real lives that are impacted by your reporting. Number 5, always advocate for change. Highlight an actionable solution or an application on how the problem can get solved, rather than merely documenting the problem. Journalism should inspire readers to engage in justice-driven efforts. Let's look at an example of justice in action. The work of organizations like Amnesty International and independent journalists reporting on human rights violations exemplifies justice-centered journalism. Their stories expose abuses such as forced labor, human trafficking, expose abuses such as forced labor, gender-based violence, religious persecution, compelling global communities to take notice. And not just to take notice, but like I said, we need to advocate for change. We need to act. Consider also the role of investigative documentaries. There's the one acclaimed South African film that I remember from back in the day. We're going back about 12 years now. I mean, for those, do we even remember the Marikana massacre that our dear president was involved with? You can go check it out for yourself. But there's the film called Miners Shot Down, which chronicles the 2012 Marikana massacre very, very well. The film brought attention to police brutality and corporate exploitation by those that owned the mines, leading to widespread public outcry and policy discussions. We need to be inspiring action, guys, in everything that we do as content creators, as journalists, as radio presenters, as people who are talking to and engaging with people every day in real life and on social media. Justice-driven journalism is not only the responsibility of reporters, it involves everyone. As consumers of media, we must demand accountability from those who wield the influence and support outlets that are committed to justice. Give people who need your time, and who are actually going to give you something worth that time that you're putting in their hands by spending an hour watching something, spending half an hour listening to a podcast. Hopefully, we are giving you something for that hour you are giving to us. So support outlets that are committed to justice. For journalists, reflect on your stories. Are they challenging the systems of oppression, or are they inadvertently actually perpetuating them and causing harm? For those readers out there or consumers, seek out and share content that uplifts justice, refusing to engage with sensationalist or biased reporting. And lastly, for communities in general, advocate and stand up for ethical journalism, supporting policies and initiatives that protect press freedom and also promote fair reporting. When we commit to justice, we are fulfilling our calling as God's representatives here on the earth. By holding powers accountable, elevating the oppressed, pursuing the truth, we embody the principles of Micah 6:8 that I read earlier and create ripples of righteousness in an often unjust world. And guys, we're going to leave it there for the ethical journalism this week for Ethics in Journalism.